Hello everybody, today we are going to be taking a very close look at the I Want song. Now if you're watching this video, I assume you know what an I Want song is, but if you're not familiar, it's basically where the protagonist or the main character states their want or desire. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is figure out if your musical needs an I Want song. Not every musical has an I Want song, and I typically tend to rebel against this idea that there are certain boxes you have to tick, certain songs in your musical you have to have, certain key moments you've got to hit because that's what all musicals do. I think that rules are made to be broken, and some of the best musicals either just won't have an I Want song or do it in a little bit of a different way. But I do believe that your main character needs a want, okay? Your main character has to want something. They cannot be just existing in life completely satisfied, because if that's the case, all of the plot, so all of the stuff that happens in your show, will be stuff happening to the main character. And we want to have active characters, not passive characters. So we want to have your characters doing things. If they're completely satisfied, they're not going to want to do anything. They're just going to want to live their little life and stuff will happen to them. But they need to be making choices, doing things, and being a really active part of this story. Because if they're not, then they're not the main character. So your main character has to want something. And I also think it's true that we should be thinking about the most important big moments of the show and figuring out if there's a way that we can musicalize these moments. Because when we are song spotting, so going through our script or our story and figuring out where we want songs to be, we're going to be choosing parts that are either emotionally big moments for our characters that we want to explore, or really big story points or plot points where something happens in the story. If there's ever a moment where something really big happens and it just gets brushed over in a scene, it may not be fully exploring that moment to the fullest capacity, okay? So we are writing a musical. That means we want to try and musicalize these really big moments. And your character having a really deep desire is a big emotional moment for the story. It's our whole launch pad. So I think that is why there tends to be this idea of there being an I Want song, because your character has to want something and it is a big emotional moment, which is really fun to musicalize. Now, if your show does not have an I Want song, it might be because your character's want is stated somewhere else, okay? So oftentimes the want is stated in the opening number. And a great example of this is in Be More Chill, okay? If you have not listened to Be More Chill, it is an absolute banger of a soundtrack, a banger of a show, and a really well constructed and well crafted show, I think. So the opening number, More Than Survive, it's literally in the title. This character wants more than just surviving high school. And this opening number manages to do all the things our opening number should do, which is setting up the world, the setting, the time period, introducing the style of the music and the musical, introducing all our main characters, and it also really clearly states the want of the protagonist, okay? So that's one example of why you might not have a specific I Want song. It might be stated somewhere else in the show, which is a-okay. Another example you might be struggling with an I Want song is if you either have multiple protagonists or if you have no protagonists. And these two things can sometimes feel like the same thing. And it usually happens when you've got a lot of main characters. It can kind of feel like, well, my show's got no protagonist, no one person who's the main character. And it might be, oh, my show has 6 protagonists or 10 protagonists. And it can feel like, well, how can I have an I Want song because all of these characters have their own different arcs and things going on, and that is amazing. What I tend to recommend is, if you don't have a protagonist in that sense, is to think about a point of view or a way in for the audience. So usually the audience will need a way into the story. So somebody's point of view who they can relate to, who they can connect with, and kind of attach themselves to and follow that person's journey into the story. They don't necessarily have to stay with that person, but thinking about a point of view or a way in. And an example of this is Into the Woods. Obviously, Into the Woods has a lot of different arcs, a lot of different things going on there. Again, I think the wants are really clearly stated in that opening number, similar to Be More Chill. And again, it's in the title, I Wish, right? I think that's what the opening number is called. But in that, it can be very easy to get lost, but we're given a way into the story through the baker and the baker's wife, I think. We're given a way in through their perspective. We see the witch from their perspective, and we don't find out about her personal stuff until much later in the show when we're given a different point of view, okay? So at the start, we're very much shown angry, evil witch, put this curse on us. And we're also introduced to the baker and his wife's personal want and desire, which is to have a child. This is a very universal, human, relatable desire, and it allows the audience to really attach themselves to those characters' wants, to root for them, and have a way into the story through their perspective and their point of view. So if you find yourself with lots of characters, this can be a really good way to think about just not necessarily choosing somebody to be your protagonist or your main character, but choosing somebody's point of view, somebody as your character who can hold hands with the audience and say, come with me into this story, follow me into this story. This is also really important if you have a musical that's about a group of people or an organization or something a little bit less human. Maybe the organization wants to X, Y, Z. Maybe your I Want song is a group of people singing, we want this. It can also be really helpful to think about the human connection. Is there somebody within that group who has a more personal want, a more relatable want, something really personal to them? Because that is, again, what the audience is going to be following into the story and help them really connect with the material. So you have decided that you definitely want to have an I Want song in your musical. Let's have a little bit of a talk about the key elements. The first thing is that we should like your main character and we should want to root for them, and we should understand to a degree why they want what they want. It should be feasible and understandable to us. If we have a character who's our main character who's singing, I want to be rich and I want to earn lots of money and I want to take advantage of these people and do all these nasty, mean things. Yeah, your character can want that, but it's a bit like, oh, I don't really want to root for this guy. And again, maybe it's not your protagonist. Maybe that's your antagonist. Maybe your antagonist gets the I Want song. That's really exciting. But if that's the case, who is your protagonist? What do they want? Don't let that just slide under the rug, because we still need to see those two opposing things, okay? So if you have a really strong antagonist with a really strong point of view, the thing that is going to create drama and conflict is having a really strong protagonist with an opposing want and an opposing point of view. The musical or the plot is going to be those two things going head to head, okay? But if you've just got your main character who's got this quest they want to go on or this thing they want to do, we really have to be able to root for them and understand their point of view. Again, it comes back to that human level. So a great example of this is Tangled, okay? In Tangled, we feel very endeared to Rapunzel. Rapunzel is very fun, charming, bubbly. We like her, okay? And we can understand why she wants to leave the tower. We understand that she has been unfairly imprisoned and manipulated, and that makes us want to root for her because we want her to be able to achieve success and achieve that freedom. And it helps that she's a very likable character, okay? I'm not saying that your protagonist has to be likable, because some of the best ones aren't, okay? And that's what makes them really interesting. They make choices that we disagree with. They're not just automatically likable, but I guess what I'm trying to say is we have to understand why they would want the thing. We have to think, oh yeah, if I was in their shoes, I'd kind of want that too. The next thing that we want to do is definitely explore their current state of being, okay? So where are they in the context of the world right now? Where do they start at the beginning of the musical? And again, often this is explored in the opening number, which sets up the current state of the world of the musical. But we really want to make sure that we have explored that. And even in your I Want song, you can explore that a little bit, singing about their current state of being. For example, in Moana, How Far I'll Go, the very first line is, I've been staring at the edge of the water long as I can remember. Yeah, so she's saying, where I am right now, I've been staring at the edge of the water, yeah? For as long as I can remember, this is what I've been feeling. This is where I currently am. So you're anchoring the audience into the current position of the character. Next, we want to understand why they are dissatisfied with their current state of being, okay? So again, it goes back to, if they were satisfied with it, they wouldn't be about to go on this musical adventure, because they'd just be happy. End of story, bang, roll credits. So we want to understand specifically what it is about their current situation that they are dissatisfied with. So again, going back to Be More Chill, Jeremy wants to do more than survive high school, but we want to understand why he's dissatisfied with being the loser, because his best friend loves being the loser, is completely happy with life, has no dissatisfaction. So what is it about Jeremy, about our main character, that makes him dissatisfied with being a loser at high school? He wants to get a girlfriend and be cool with the ladies, wants to succeed, wants to have more than just one friend, wants to, you know what I mean? Like, what are these specific things that are making the character dissatisfied with their current situation? We need to know that. And we also want to be really specific about the change that they are yearning for, okay? So to again use this example of Be More Chill, Jeremy is really satisfied with being a loser. You could have a whole I Want song about, I want to change schools to a school where they don't bully me. And, you know, like maybe his specific change he wants to see happen is moving schools so that he's not a loser anymore. But that's not what he is yearning for. Yeah, he is yearning for self-change, to become a cooler person, okay? To get with the girl, to, you know, be with his crush, and, you know, all of these specific things that where he would like to see change. It's really good to specifically go in on that. And then we also want to make a decision about what our character does about it, okay? Our character has a want, they sing about the want. At the end of that song, are they in the same position? They're just yearning and they don't do anything about it. Maybe what happens in the story happens in the scene after, and something happens and they decide, you know what, I'm gonna go for it. But maybe it happens within the song, okay? So maybe at the end of that song, they have a moment of discovery and think, you know what, I can implement this change. I can go on to do X, Y, Z. I can chase my dreams and achieve my desire. So I want you to really have a think about where the song starts and where the song ends. It's absolutely okay if it's just an emotional exploration of this want. That's absolutely fine. But it is also possible to continue the plot within this song if the character makes a decision or something happens that pushes them forward. Again, going back to Moana, at the end of How Far I'll Go, you see her on the boat going out into the ocean, and yes, she might not succeed in achieving that want her first time round, but she makes a decision about it, right? She makes a decision, and we end that song in a beautiful image of her going after her want. Now, the biggest thing that we want to think about in I Want songs is the specific want and the universal need, okay? So a specific want is something that this character in this particular situation is wanting. If we use Wicked as an example, Elphaba wants to meet the wizard, right? The wizard and I, when I meet the wizard. That's very specific. If I'm watching that, I'm not going, oh yeah, me too, I really want to meet the wizard, because that's not a part of my reality or my context or my world, right? That is very specific to Elphaba. It is a specific want. But underneath that, we have layered in universal needs, okay, which she sings about in The Wizard and I. No one thinks you're strange. Your father will be proud of you. Your sister won't be ashamed of you. You know, maybe you'll get an opportunity to change, you know, your appearance, and people will love you and they'll celebrate you, right? All of these things are sitting underneath that specific want, but they are universal themes and things that we can relate to. So if you're watching Wicked, you can go, oh yeah, I know what it's like to be on the outside. I know what it's like to want to fit in. I know what it's like to want to make your dad proud of you, right? So they're universal needs. Now again, coming back to all rules are made to be broken. Some I Want songs don't have these specific wants. They just focus on the universal needs. So the first thing that comes to mind is Dear Evan Hansen, right? We've got Waving Through a Window. This song is just like pretty metaphor, pretty metaphor, pretty metaphor. There is no specific thing, like thinking about it. I could be wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. But, you know, on the outside, always looking in, you know, alone to slam on the brakes. Another metaphor. It's all these things like I've been on the outside looking in, waving through a window. It's not saying he's literally like waving through the window, somebody let me in. But in society, he is on the outside looking in, and we're just having an emotional exploration of that feeling without having any specific things like, oh, I really want to do this, I really want to do this. It's a very generalized kind of exploration of the theme. That kind of suits the contemporary style of that musical. And again, these things will go back to style, context, setting. You know, what kind of musical are you doing? Is it all pop songs? Is it like Yoldy Woldy? Is it Golden Age? You know, these kinds of things. So yeah, really have a think about your musical and what would work best for your show. The I Want song can be a really, really interesting exploration, because the thing that they want the most often turns out to be the thing that is the absolute worst thing. And this is why we need to think about these two elements operating at the same time, the specific want and the universal need, okay? Because the need stays constant throughout, right? They might not even be aware of the need in some instances. Like in The Wizard and I, she sings about that, and she sings about I want to meet the wizard. They're happening at the same time. But your character might be singing about the specific want, not really knowing that what they really need is, you know, the feeling of belonging or the whatever it is. But the thing that they want, that is the specific want, that often turns out to be the worst thing. So to continue using Wicked, Elphaba really wants to meet the wizard. That is her specific want. She meets the wizard and turns out that that was actually the worst thing and not what she needed at all. Yeah, she didn't need the wizard to accept her. She didn't need to be the wizard's right-hand man. It actually wasn't what was helpful, wasn't what she was needing. Yeah. And to flip that round, the thing that they are most afraid of in the beginning often ends up being the thing that they must learn to embrace, or that turns out to be the best thing ever. So in the start, Elphaba is like this outsider and weirdo, blah, 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 blah. That turns out to be an amazing thing that she embraces and goes, you know what, yeah, I'm the Wicked Witch of the West, whatever. Another quick example is Avenue Q. At the start, Princeton is like, I just need to find my purpose. You know, I really am so afraid of being lost in life. And at the end, they're like, you know what, nobody has a purpose, it's totally fine. And they end up embracing the thing that they were most afraid of at the beginning. So all of this is to say, really think about your character's journey, not just in this moment of the I Want song. Where is this story going? Where does it end? Where does it get to? And you need to be able to pepper those things back into this really important moment at the start. So many things in the I Want song end up foreshadowing what is to come. And that is true in all of these examples that I have listed today. Now, if you do want something a little bit more structured, I have made a worksheet that is all about the I Want song, covering the topics that I have kind of explained today. And it's just really, really simple. It's something that you can print off or on your computer, just fill out and think about each of these sections. You kind of work through it like a flow chart, and at the end, you can put that journey together as a song, okay? And it just gives you a few different things to think about rather than thinking, oh, I've got to have a 4-minute song that just discusses this one thing, I want this. You know, it can be hard to know how to expand on that or how to explore that emotion. But if you follow these steps, you get a few different ideas of different points of view that you can have and build into that I Want song. So I will leave a link to that in the description. It is absolutely free. You can download that and use that if it's helpful. But again, all of these rules are made to be broken, okay? So the best thing that you can do is go and re-listen to your favorite soundtracks, watch your favorite musicals, and really watch it through the lens of the main character or the character that's leading you through this story. Try to identify their want, yeah? Try and see where they have to make a decision to change their current situation, or if something happens that forces them to change their current situation. Yeah, the best thing that you can do is go and analyze the musicals that do it well. And if you choose a wide selection, you're going to be able to see it done so many different ways. And hopefully that will give you the confidence to step outside the box, step outside the typical structure, because there is no one right way to do it. So the challenge for today is to put down in the comments what your character's universal need is, okay? So not their specific want, but what are they needing internally that they may be aware of or maybe not aware of. It could be that they want to belong, they really want to find the love of their life, they want to be forgiven for something terrible that they've done, they want to explore some place they've never been to and live an adventurous life. It could be something universal that sits underneath. It should be something that we can relate to and something that is a little bit more human. So let me know, because I would love to hear it. I know that there are a bunch of you who are working on some very exciting musicals. And until the next video, see you next time.